How did we get all this? How did the left take over these institutions? How did we let them? What made them think of doing this, and when did they start about it? I think that the roots of this actually go back, at least in conception, almost a century. It was the Italian communist Antonio Gramsci who was pondering the question of why Marxism had not arrived in the world. In other words, Karl Marx had predicted that the working class would revolt, would overthrow its oppressors, would take power. Yet here's Gramsci writing in the early part of the 20th century. It had been many decades since Marx made these predictions, and Marx's predictions had not come true, not in Germany, not in England, not in any industrialized country, in fact, nowhere in the world. And they have not come true in that form to this day. And so Gramsci thought about, why is that? Why has the working class not revolted? And his answer was a very strange but interesting one. He said the reason is that even though the working class is oppressed and would normally revolt, the working class has assimilated what he called bourgeois culture. In other words, he said the working man isn't just a worker. He's also a husband or a parent. In other words, he's part of a family, probably a patriarchal family. And also this working class guy is a member of a church. And every Sunday he gets indoctrinated in Christian doctrine by a pastor or by a priest. And then he probably belongs to a bowling league or goes to sports games or is part of an organization like perhaps the Rotary Club. So what I'm getting at is that Gramsci said that it's bourgeois culture, the culture created by capitalism, but a culture that incorporates Judaism and Christianity. This culture then shapes the values and shapes the behavior of the working class and turns the working class into a budding capitalist. That the working class guy doesn't want to overthrow the capitalist class, he actually wants to find a way to join the capitalist class. And this, Gramsci says, is delaying, is putting off, perhaps permanently, the socialist revolution. So, what's the solution? Well, very simple. The solution is we, the left, the socialists, the communists, we have to take over the culture. We have to indoctrinate our way. And what this means is that we've got to do a lot of work. We've got to undermine the family. We've got to undermine the churches. We've got to set up new types of churches that promote new types of values. We've got to take over the media. We've got to take over the schools and the universities. We've got to replace their curriculum with our curriculum. So I mention all of this because it all seems so eerily familiar now, and that this project, which was advertised in almost a century ago, really got going in the 1960s, when a whole generation of young leftists moved into education, moved into academia, and began the work of taking over these institutions, a work that seems today to be largely complete. And I think a lot of the things that we're living with now have their roots in this leftist takeover of cultural institutions.